For any CFB 25 players out there, you might be familiar with the veer and shoot offense run by teams such as Tennessee and South Florida. And if you think it's a gimmicky and unstoppable offense in the game, well, unfortunately, I need to tell you that that's exactly what it is in real life. The offense was created and popularized by Art Briles in the early 2010s with Baylor. His tenure there ended, let's just say, unceremoniously, and believe me, there won't be any pro-Art Briles sentiments here, but I just wanted to touch on the history of the offense. It would eventually trickle out to many other teams, most notably Tennessee, led by Josh Heupel, and it led to some outrageous statistical outputs from Hendon Hooker, and it allowed Jalen Hyatt to take home the Biletnikoff Award in 2022. So, as you and many others might be wondering, why does no one run this offense in the NFL? I'll answer that question, but first I need to give you the specifics of the scheme, and since SEC film is more or less forbidden on the internet, I'll mostly be using the University of South Florida's offense to show you what it's about. This offense, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to keep calling it the veer and shoot for simplicity's sake, utilizes a few things. Light personnel, stacks for free releases, very wide alignments from the receivers, deep choice routes, and RPOs. And all of these things feed off of each other. The goal is to be fast and vertical, which is why they use such light personnel, and then they use these stacks to get free releases and keep their speed guys from getting rerouted by more physical DBs, and then the rest of these characteristics are what really separates this offense from anything else, and I'll go into further detail on them now. The wide alignments give the receiver space to operate, and trust me, there's a lot more to it than that, but just remember that and stick with me. It'll be very important later on in the video. The receivers utilize this space to run deep choice routes. And these routes are fairly simple. The receiver on the front side of the concept, usually the only side of the concept, are reading one man. It might be the corner, it might be the safety, but they're mostly just checking the pre-snap alignment of their assigned defender to decide what route to run. In the case of this play, we have double-sided deep choice routes. The front man of the stack is typically going to run either a post, a dig, or a deep curl. If we look at the wide side of this play, there's no safety help over the top to his side. The point man is going to run a post. On the short side, there is safety help, and since there isn't much room to run a curl because it is the short side of the field, he's going to run a dig. As for the stacked receivers, there's really only two options, go or curl. And one coaching point that you might find is, if you can touch him, run past him. But for our purposes, the outside corner is playing 4x2 inside, so a go is the best option here. This isn't the only way they run these deep choice routes. They're not always from a stack or wide alignment. A lot of times they'll just have regular twins out to the wide side and they'll run it that way, or they'll run it from the short side of the field. Regardless, the premise is still the same. They're reading one man and making their route decision based off of that. Another thing you might notice is that on the backside of a lot of these plays, the receivers aren't even running at all. And that's by design. On the backside of a lot of deep choice routes, they just have receivers pretty much admit that they're not going to run a competitive route the second the ball is snapped. Now, of course, that can keep you on edge as a defender if they bluff that and take off, but it's just a coaching point. It happens in college. I don't know what to tell you. One possible explanation that I've heard is that coaches kind of want to give their receivers a play off because there's a lot of no huddle, a lot of tempo, not a lot of substitutions, and a lot of vertical routes. So obviously guys are going to tire out very, very fast. So that kind of makes sense, but I digress. And speaking of a fast tempo, I know I'm going pretty quick through this right now. So if you're a little confused, feel free to put a comment in the comment section and ask me a question. I know I sound like a college professor, but I'm happy to explain if I need to. Okay, back into the video now. So what I'm getting at here is that the deep choice combinations are the staple part of the pass game for these offenses. But I think it's a bit of a mischaracterization to say that these offenses are just bombing the ball down the field 24/7 because they run the ball a lot. And so now I want to get into the other element of this offense, and it's the run pass option element of it. Obviously, RPOs contain an option to hand the ball off or throw it, and I'll show you a play here where they have a hitch route from the slot as the main pass option. The read man is this apex defender, and since he slightly steps down and keeps his eyes in the backfield, there's room to throw this hitch, and that's what Byron Brown does. Now, notice the conflict defender that I circled is in an ocean of space. And remember what I said a few minutes ago about how there was more to the wide alignments than the baseline description of it gives them more space to operate? Well, now it's time to talk about it. And this is where we're going to connect it to the NFL and where we're going to connect it to the run game. The reason why these wide alignments create so much space is because of the hashes. The NFL hashes are 18.5 feet apart, while the college hashes are more than double that at 40 feet apart. And you've most likely heard that before, but likely without any explanation as to why it creates so much space and why it is so advantageous for the offense. So, the reason it creates so much space is because when the ball is on one hash, the wide side of the field becomes way wider than it would at the NFL level. So yes, there is more space to run for the receivers, and that does help make this offense go, but what it really does is completely separate the run game and the pass game from a defensive perspective. You see, in the NFL, the slot corner position has become absolutely vital to most defenses. That's because you need players who can cover while also being able to fit the run and set the edge. But fortunately for them, they're usually working in a confined enough space to play both competently. This is simply impossible to do against a college offense like this. It renders these players completely irrelevant. They essentially have to declare whether they're going to play the run or the pass before the ball is snapped, and once the offense sees that declaration, they know they'll have numbers wherever they go with the ball. They get to run the ball into a light box or throw the ball to a receiver who has a one-on-one deep choice route where the defender can almost never be right. Another thing of note is that college teams throw significantly more screens than NFL teams, and these offenses are no different. They use wide stacks to get these guys screens out in space because God knows there's a whole ocean of space for these receivers to run through, and then they'll come back and they'll fake the screen and throw down the field. It's a whole bunch of different layers that this offense can provide in the screen game in addition to everything that I've already laid out. And this brings me to my one final point about why this does not work in the NFL, and it's simply because of the lack of anticipation that these quarterbacks are asked to play with. Just from a timing perspective and because the windows are so small, NFL QBs absolutely must practice getting the ball out of their hands before their receivers are out of their breaks. And this is especially difficult on teams who utilize a lot of option routes like the Rams. It takes a ton of reps and a ton of chemistry between the quarterback and receivers to figure out. In the veer and shoot offense, QBs are not asked to do this on these deep choice routes. They are see it, throw it quarterbacks. You only see them anticipating deep choice routes when they have a significant amount of chemistry with the receiver, kind of like Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt did a few years ago. And fortunately, it's much easier to do this in college. The windows are larger, the pockets are cleaner, and defenses are generally slower to react. And when I say the windows are larger, I mean much, much larger. Like on this play, you have trips to the wide side of the field with a stack in the slot, and the stacked receiver is going to end up running an in-breaker. And because the Mike linebacker is so far away from the play, this space on this in-breaker is massive. And it's for all these reasons that this offense just does not translate to the next level, which for evaluation purposes can make things very difficult and lead to some Corey Coleman in the first round picks. We still shouldn't helmet scout, of course, but it gets harder to pick out the things that actually matter, and I hope I've done a good job of explaining that. So with that being said, that's all I got. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help grow the channel, and let some other people know who may be interested in this content know about it. But other than that, thanks for watching. Till next time. Oh, quick, one more shameless plug. I'm on TikTok now, same handle, slaw_FB, same as my Twitter, same as my YouTube, if you guys can even see that. I'm just trying to expand my outreach here and get my content on other platforms. So if you have it, feel free to go follow me over there. If not, it's fine. Honestly, if you don't feel like downloading TikTok, I don't care. Okay, have a nice day.